Chapter 1. The Valley of Tension. The Valley of Elah stretched wide under the relentless midday sun, a patchwork of rock, sand, and scrub, the river glinting like silver far below. While on either side, two armies faced one another, tense and silent, each waiting for the other to act. On one side, the Philistines camped, their banners fluttering in the breeze, their armor gleaming like molten bronze under the sunlight. And in their midst towered Goliath of Gath, a giant among men, 9 feet tall, clad in bronze from head to foot, his spear so massive that it seemed more a weapon of legend than reality. Every day for 40 mornings and 40 evenings, Goliath strode forward, his voice thundering across the valley as he taunted Israel, mocking their God, their king, and their warriors, challenging them to send forth a man to fight him in single combat, to determine the fate of both armies without further bloodshed. The soldiers of Israel trembled. Even the bravest hardened men felt their courage waver at the sight of the giant, at the sound of his booming laughter and his disdainful words. Fear had rooted itself deep into their hearts. They whispered among themselves, recounting stories of Goliath's past victories, his unmatched strength, and the terror he inspired in every army he faced. But amidst the murmurs of despair, far from the battlefield, tending his father's sheep on the gentle slopes of Bethlehem, a young boy named David was oblivious to the scale of the fear that gripped the army. He had been sent by his father, Jesse, to deliver food to his brothers who had joined Saul's army in defense of Israel. David's heart, shaped by solitude, responsibility, and the quiet hours spent in the fields with his flocks, was not shaken by tales of giants or the clamor of war. Where the army saw impossibility, David's mind was filled with thoughts of God's faithfulness, for he had seen the Lord deliver him from lions and bears that threatened his sheep, and he could not imagine a God who would let his people fall when one faithful servant would stand in courage and trust. Chapter 2. A Shepherd's Courage. David's life as a shepherd had taught him lessons that no academy of warriors could impart. Every day he faced danger from prowling lions, stealthy bears, and wild beasts that could tear through his flocks in an instant. Yet with each encounter, David had learned to rely not on human strength or heavy armor, but on God's guidance, on courage birthed from faith, and on the skills honed through years of vigilance and practice. The sling in his hand, simple and unassuming, had felled lions and bears, saving the lives of his sheep. And now as he arrived at the army's encampment in Elah, he heard the Philistines' challenge ringing across the valley and saw men shaking with fear, refusing to step forward. David's heart burned within him, not with pride, but with indignation at the audacity of Goliath, who had defied the armies of the living God. "Who is this Philistine," he asked aloud to the soldiers around him, "that he should defy the armies of the Lord? I will fight him." The men stared, shocked at the audacity of a boy daring to face the giant. Yet David did not argue with their disbelief. He simply recounted his experiences. "I have fought lions and bears to protect my flock, and the Lord delivered me from their claws. He will deliver me from this Philistine as well, for the battle is not mine but God's." In that moment, David's courage shone not because he was fearless, but because he was rooted in trust, in the unshakable belief that God fights alongside those who are faithful, turning apparent weakness into instruments of triumph. Chapter 3. Confronting the King. When news of David's intent reached King Saul, the aged king summoned him, looking upon the boy with a mixture of curiosity and doubt. "You are but a youth," Saul said, "and he has been a warrior from his youth." Saul's words were heavy with the weight of experience and the fear that had gripped his men. But David's reply carried no arrogance, only unwavering faith. "Your servant has defended his sheep against lions and bears, and the Lord delivered me. He will deliver me from this Philistine, for the battle belongs to the Lord." and he will hand Goliath over to us." Saul's eyes searched David's face, perhaps wondering at the depth of conviction he saw there. The king offered him his own armor, a shining breastplate, helmet, and sword. But David tried it on and realized he could not move as he did with the simple tools he had always used. The armor was cumbersome, heavy, and alien, unlike the sling and stones he had trusted all his life. With humility, he removed the armor and declared, "I cannot go in these. I am not used to them. But I will go in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, whom you have defied." Saul, seeing the strength of faith in the young shepherd, allowed him to confront Goliath, unaware that this boy would alter the course of Israel's history that day. Chapter 4. The Taunt of the Giant. As David approached, Goliath noticed him and laughed, a sound that rolled like thunder across the valley, echoing off the hills and frightening the Israelite soldiers, who had already been paralyzed by fear. "Am I a dog," Goliath bellowed, "that you come to me with sticks?" His voice dripped with scorn and mockery, his eyes surveying the boy as if he were a mere insect daring to challenge a mountain. He jeered at David's youth, his small frame, his lack of armor, and his untested skill in war. But David's response was not of anger, but of faith, a proclamation that shook the valley even more than Goliath's laughter. "You come to me with sword, spear, and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and all the earth will know that there is a God in Israel. He will give all of you into our hands, and the whole world will see his glory." The soldiers could hardly believe it, watching a boy speak such words with conviction. Yet David's faith radiated with a power that dwarfed Goliath's physical might. The giant roared, raised his spear, and moved forward. But David's steps did not falter. Every footfall was a testament to trust, a declaration that God's strength is revealed not in armor or sword, but in faith unwavering, in courage unshakable, and in a heart wholly devoted to his glory. Chapter 5. The Sling in Action. David bent by the brook, picking up 5 smooth stones, each glimmering in the sun, each a simple instrument of divine deliverance. The sling, coiled in his hand, seemed insignificant against the giant before him. Yet in the hands of faith, it became a weapon of miraculous power. As he stepped forward, Goliath charged, raising his massive spear, his laughter mingled with anger, convinced that victory was assured. David placed 1 stone in the sling, swung it with precision, and released it. Time seemed to slow as the stone flew through the air, spinning, guided by skill, trust, and divine intervention. It struck Goliath on the forehead, sinking deep, and the giant staggered, disbelief crossing his features. The valley fell silent for a heartbeat, then erupted into awe as Goliath fell face first to the ground, the power of the living God displayed through a simple shepherd's hands. David ran forward, seized the giant's own sword, and completed the deliverance, severing the head of the one who had terrorized Israel for 40 days. In that moment, the impossible became reality. Faith, courage, and obedience had triumphed over size, strength, and fear. Chapter 6. The Triumph of Faith. The Israelites, inspired by David's victory, charged the Philistine camp, scattering their enemies before them. What had seemed an impossible task, the defeat of the mighty Goliath, had been accomplished not through human strength or strategy, but through trust in the Lord. Soldiers and onlookers alike witnessed the power of God moving through one man who dared to believe, and awe replaced fear. David's brothers, who had doubted him, now looked with astonishment and pride. Saul the king saw in David a man after God's own heart, a shepherd whose faith and courage were the instruments of divine victory. The Valley of Elah would forever be remembered not for the giant who fell, but for the boy who trusted, who acted, and who let God's power shine through weakness. David's life was changed forever, marked as a man destined for greatness, guided not by ambition or pride, but by the God who had delivered him and the God who continues to deliver those who place their trust wholly in him. Chapter 7. Lessons from the battle. The story of David and Goliath is eternal, not just as history, but as principle. It teaches that fear is often a shadow, larger than reality, and that faith, when acted upon, can overcome any obstacle. The Valley of Elah represents all the challenges we face, giants of doubt, fear, oppression, and impossibility that loom over our lives. David shows us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the determination to act despite it, that God's strength is made perfect in weakness, and that victory is not measured by size or weaponry, but by trust, preparation, and obedience. Each stone in the shepherd's hand is a symbol of God-given tools, seemingly small, yet capable of divine power when wielded in faith. David reminds us that God does not call the equipped, but equips the called, that he chooses humble vessels to accomplish mighty purposes, and that no giant, no matter how imposing, can stand before the hand of the Lord when his servant rises in courage and trust.